The arrival. Captain Crosthul stood at the command center of the Crimson Void, his iridescent scales shifting between shades of deep purple and midnight blue as he studied the holographic display of Earth. His four-fingered hand traced the vast blue expanse that covered most of the planet's surface, while his secondary eyes focused on the countless small vessels dotting the oceans below. Primitive vessels, Supreme Commander, First Officer Vixna reported, her tentacles rippling with barely contained excitement. Their largest ships barely reach 200 meters in length. Most appear to use antiquated combustion engines, and their defensive capabilities are minimal. Crosthul's mouth ridges curved into what his species considered a smile. After 3 centuries of pirating across 12 star systems, he had finally found what appeared to be the perfect target. These humans, with their seemingly endless fleet of small boats scattered across their world's oceans, were practically begging to be plundered. "Show me their primary fishing grounds," he commanded, his translator converting his natural clicking speech into standard Galactic Basic. The hologram shifted, highlighting concentrations of vessels across Earth's oceans. "Fascinating patterns, sir," Science Officer Zilt commented, manipulating the display with his crystalline appendages. "They seem to follow the migrations of local aquatic life forms. Their largest concentrations are in these regions they call fishing grounds. The Grand Banks, North Sea, South China Sea, and several others." The bridge crew of the Crimson Void had spent 3 solar cycles studying Earth's maritime activities, watching as thousands of fishing vessels went about their daily routines. To their advanced sensors, the human ships appeared laughably primitive, wooden and metal constructions using basic sonar and radio communications, deploying simple nets and lines to harvest sea life. "What defenses do they possess?" Crosthul inquired, already anticipating an easy conquest. "Nothing our systems recognize as weapons, sir," Vixna replied, scrolling through sensor data. "Some carry primitive projectile launchers they call flare guns. Their most sophisticated technology appears to be these GPS devices for navigation and radio systems for communication." The bridge erupted in chittering laughter, a sound that would have reminded humans of crystal wind chimes in a storm. These humans hadn't even developed basic shield technology or energy weapons. Their vessels were completely exposed to the elements, protected by nothing more than metal hulls and human ingenuity. "Select a target," Crosthul ordered, his scales now pulsing with anticipation. "Something isolated enough for a test run, but significant enough to send a message." The hologram zoomed in on a cluster of vessels in the North Atlantic. "This group, sir," Vixna suggested. 15 vessels, relatively isolated. They're engaged in something they call longline fishing. Most have crews of less than 20 humans. As the Crimson Void's crew prepared for their first raid, none of them noticed the subtle anomalies in their sensor readings. They didn't recognize the significance of the complex underwater cable networks connecting the fishing vessels to shore, or the sophisticated satellite systems monitoring every square kilometer of Earth's oceans. They dismissed the regular patterns of communication between ships as primitive coordination, never suspecting they were witnessing one of humanity's most extensive and well-organized industries. "Deploy the scout drones," Crosthul commanded. "I want detailed scans of their operations before we begin. These humans have no idea what's about to hit them." In the waters below, Captain Maria Rodriguez of the fishing vessel, Northern Star, noticed an unusual reading on her sonar display. After 30 years at sea, she knew every ping, every shadow that should appear on her instruments. This was different. She reached for her satellite phone, her weathered fingers quickly dialing a familiar number. "Hey, Jack. You seeing anything weird on your sonar? Something about 40 fathoms up, moving against the current?" She paused, listening to the response. "Yeah, I think we better put the word out. Remind me to tell you about that UN briefing from last month. You know, the one about unusual maritime activities protocols." As the alien pirates prepared their first strike, they remained blissfully unaware that Earth's fishing fleets had been quietly preparing for something like this for years. Humanity's first line of defense wasn't its military or its governments, it was the millions of men and women who knew the seas better than they knew their own homes. The stage was set for a confrontation that would prove that sometimes the most effective weapons aren't the most advanced ones, sometimes they're just nets, knowledge, and the unshakable determination of people protecting their way of life. The pre-dawn air carried the familiar scent of salt and diesel as Captain Maria Rodriguez's warning spread through the North Atlantic fishing fleet. Within hours, a complex web of communication had been established, masked by the routine chatter of everyday fishing operations. To any outside observer, it appeared to be business as usual on the fishing grounds. All vessels, maintain normal operations, Maria's voice crackled over a secured frequency. Remember Protocol Omega. Let them think we're just simple fishing boats. She glanced at the encrypted tablet hidden beneath her regular navigation equipment, watching as green dots representing friendly vessels moved into predetermined positions. Above the Earth's atmosphere, Captain Crosthall prepared for his triumphant moment. "Deploy boarding parties," he commanded, his scales now shimmering with predatory anticipation. "Target the vessel designated Northern Star. Let's show these primitives what real space pirates can do." 3 sleek boarding pods detached from the Crimson Void, their advanced cloaking technology rendering them invisible to what the aliens believed were primitive human sensors. They descended through the atmosphere, positioning themselves around the Northern Star. "Sir," Vixna called from her station, "I'm detecting unusual patterns in their communication frequencies. These humans seem to be using multiple overlapping channels." "Probably crying for help," Crosthall dismissed with a wave of his hand. "Commence the operation." The boarding pods materialized around the Northern Star, their sudden appearance designed to inspire terror. Instead, Maria Rodriguez calmly took a sip from her coffee mug and pressed a button on her console. "All stations, Protocol Omega is now active. Let's show our visitors some old-fashioned hospitality." The first sign that something was wrong came when the aliens' magnetic grappling systems failed to find purchase on the Northern Star's hull. Unknown to them, the vessel's entire outer structure had been coated with a new polymer developed specifically for this purpose, rendering their advanced magnetic technology useless. "Impossible," the lead boarding party commander sputtered. "Manual attachment procedures. Deploy the physical anchors." But as the aliens attempted to secure their position, dozens of fishing vessels suddenly altered their courses in perfect coordination. What had appeared to be random movements of isolated boats transformed into a complex naval maneuver that would have impressed any military strategist. "Sir." Vixna's voice carried an edge of panic. "The humans, they're deploying some kind of containment grid. Massive nets, reinforced with experimental carbon fiber and treated with electromagnetic dampening compounds, began rising from the depths. The fishing vessels moved in precise patterns, their seemingly primitive winch systems working in perfect harmony to create an ever-tightening web around the alien pods. "These are just fishing nets." Crosthall roared from the bridge of the Crimson Void. "Cut through them." But as their energy weapons fired, the nets didn't disintegrate as expected. Instead, the specially treated fibers absorbed and dispersed the energy, growing stronger with each blast. Decades of dealing with the most powerful creatures of the deep had taught humanity how to build nets that could withstand almost anything. On the Northern Star's deck, Maria allowed herself a small smile as she watched the aliens' mounting confusion. "You know," she spoke into her comm system, knowing the aliens could hear her, "there's an old saying among Earth's fishermen, the sea teaches patience, but it rewards preparation." The alien boarding parties found themselves in an increasingly desperate situation. Their advanced technology, designed to overwhelm primitive defenses, proved ineffective against the deceptively simple but ingeniously modified fishing equipment. Every attempt to break free only entangled them further in the human's net. "Captain," one of the boarding party commanders called to Crosthall, "we're detecting some kind of sonic pulse from their vessels. It's interfering with our systems. What the aliens had dismissed as primitive sonar equipment was actually a network of sophisticated acoustic devices, developed through years of studying marine mammals. The frequencies, perfectly calibrated to disrupt alien technology while appearing to be nothing more than standard fishing sonar, began to take their toll. In the Crimson Void's command center, Crosthall watched in disbelief as his elite boarding parties were systematically neutralized by what he had dismissed as primitive fishing boats. But the true shock came when his sensors detected multiple approaching signatures from all directions. "Sir," Vixna reported, her tentacles writhing with anxiety, "we're picking up hundreds of vessels converging on our position. They're coming from every major fishing ground on the planet." Maria's voice came through their communication system again, calm and assured. "Captain Crosthall, I presume? I think it's time we had a proper conversation about maritime law and interstellar fishing rights. You see, Earth's oceans have been protected by fishermen for thousands of years. We've fought off everything from storms to sea monsters. Did you really think we wouldn't be ready for space pirates?" As the global fishing fleet closed in, their nets ready and their crews prepared, it was becoming clear to the aliens that they had made a devastating miscalculation. They had expected to find primitive vessels crewed by simple fishermen. Instead, they had stumbled into the carefully laid trap of an industry that had spent generations learning to adapt, survive, and protect their waters from any threat, terrestrial or otherwise. Word of the confrontation in the North Atlantic spread through the global fishing community like a tide rushing across the ocean. From the bustling ports of Southeast Asia to the frozen waters of the Antarctic, fishing vessels of all sizes began implementing long-practiced protocols that most had hoped they'd never need to use. In the command center of the Crimson Void, Captain Crosthall watched with growing unease as his tactical display became increasingly crowded. "How are they coordinating on this scale?" he demanded, his scales now pulsing with an anxious yellow glow. "Their technology is primitive. Sir," Science Officer Zilt reported, his crystalline appendages flying over the control surfaces, "they're using something called WhatsApp and Facebook groups. I don't understand. These are basic digital communication platforms, but they're organizing complex fleet movements across entire oceans." In the waters below, the truth was even more impressive than the aliens realized. Generations of competing fishing fleets had created an intricate network of relationships, rivalries, and alliances that spanned the globe. Now, that network was transforming into humanity's defense grid. Off the coast of Vietnam, Captain Tran Minh Hien of the Lucky Dragon received the alert while hauling in his morning catch. Within minutes, his entire fleet had switched to specially modified nets, their seemingly simple rope and wire construction hiding cutting-edge metamaterials developed through a secret partnership between fishing communities and maritime research institutes. "All vessels in the South China Sea," he broadcast on an open channel, knowing the aliens would hear, "remember the typhoon formation. Just like we practiced." Dozens of boats began moving in what appeared to be chaos but was actually a carefully choreographed pattern designed to create electromagnetic disturbance fields with their modified equipment. In the Norwegian Sea, Captain Eric Larson smiled as he watched the aliens' attempts to track the movements of Earth's fishing fleets. "They still don't understand," he radioed to Maria Rodriguez in the North Atlantic. "They think our sonars are just for finding fish." The truth was far more sophisticated. Years of mapping ocean currents, tracking marine life, and navigating the world's most treacherous waters had given Earth's fishermen an understanding of their environment that no orbital scan could match. Every piece of primitive equipment on their vessels had been quietly upgraded over the years, creating a planetary defense system hidden in plain sight. "Sir!" Vixna called out on the Crimson Void's bridge, her tentacles twisting in agitation, were detecting unusual energy patterns from their fishing grounds. "The humans are using their ocean currents they're creating some kind of planetary-scale electromagnetic disturbance." Crosthall's scales shifted to a pale gray as he realized the true extent of his miscalculation. These weren't just scattered groups of primitive food gatherers, this was a coordinated global industry capable of mobilizing thousands of vessels and millions of personnel in a matter of hours. In the Indian Ocean, Captain Priya Patel of the Mumbai Sunrise led a fleet of trawlers in deploying what appeared to be standard fishing nets. But as the carbon fiber reinforced webbing spread through the waters, it began forming a complex pattern that played havoc with alien scanning systems. Decades of experiencing dealing with everything from industrial pollution to illegal fishing had taught Earth's maritime communities the value of innovation and adaptation. "They thought our nets were primitive," Priya commented over the secure channel. "Wait until they see what we developed to catch ghost nets in the deep ocean." Her fleet began deploying experimental capture systems originally designed to clean up ocean pollution but now repurposed to entangle alien vessels. The aliens watched in growing horror as their sophisticated sensors were gradually blinded by what appeared to be nothing more than fishing boats going about their daily routines. But each cast of a net, each sweep of a sonar, each seemingly random course change was actually part of a massive coordinated effort to contain and neutralize the space pirates. "Captain," Zilt reported, his voice carrying an unmistakable tremor, "we're detecting more vessels emerging from Earth's major ports. Not just fishing boats now, cargo ships, research vessels, even their primitive recreational craft. They're all carrying some form of modified fishing equipment." In the waters around Japan, Captain Hiroshi Tanaka of the Rising Tide coordinated with a fleet of advanced longline vessels, their equipment modified with technology borrowed from deep-sea research. "Remember," he broadcast to his fleet, "we're not just protecting our fishing grounds anymore. We're protecting our oceans, our planet." The aliens had expected to find a primitive planet with vulnerable maritime operations. Instead, they had stumbled upon one of humanity's oldest and most sophisticated industries, one that had spent centuries learning to adapt, innovate, and protect its territory. As fishing fleets from every corner of the globe converged on the alien vessels, it was becoming clear that this would be a lesson in never underestimating the ingenuity and determination of Earth's maritime communities. The Crimson Void's bridge had descended into chaos. Captain Crosthall's scales had faded to an ashen gray as he watched his supposedly superior technology being systematically neutralized by Earth's fishing fleets. What had started as a simple pirating raid was rapidly becoming one of the greatest tactical blunders in space piracy history. "Sir," Vixna reported, her tentacles coiling tightly with stress, "we've lost contact with all boarding parties. The humans have completely encased our pods in some kind of advanced netting material. Our cutting beams they're being absorbed somehow." Below, on the deck of the Northern Star, Captain Maria Rodriguez coordinated with fleets worldwide through a hidden quantum communication system disguised as ordinary fishing equipment. "Phase 2 is ready," she announced. "All sectors, commence Operation Deep Net." In the waters off Iceland, Captain Magnus Eriksson led a fleet of vessels specially equipped with experimental deep-sea trawling gear. "Deploying sonic pulse arrays," he reported. The seemingly primitive sonar equipment on his vessels began emitting carefully calibrated frequencies that created a devastating resonance with the aliens' shield harmonics. "Our shields!" Zilt cried out on the Crimson Void's bridge. "They're somehow matching our resonance frequencies. But that's impossible, their technology is too primitive to." "Stop saying that." Crosthall roared, his scales now pulsing with angry red patterns. "Look at what these primitives are doing to us." The truth was becoming painfully clear. Every piece of fishing technology the humans employed had been carefully modified over years of preparation. What appeared to be simple fish-finding sonar contained sophisticated acoustic weapons. Standard fishing nets incorporated advanced metamaterials. Even their basic radio communications masked a complex network of quantum-encrypted channels. Off the coast of South Africa, Captain Thabo Mbeki of the Cape Hope led a contingent of purse-seiner vessels in a maneuver that would have seemed impossible for civilian ships. "Deploying the special nets now," he announced. The massive nets, originally designed to catch whole schools of tuna, had been modified with experimental electromagnetic disruption fields. "Sir." Vixna's voice carried an edge of panic. "The humans are creating some kind of energy web around us. Our engines are losing power." The aliens watched in horror as their advanced starship, capable of traversing galaxies, was being systematically immobilized by what appeared to be fishing boats. Each attempt to break free only entangled them further in humanity's trap. In the Mediterranean, Captain Sofia Nikolaidis commanded a fleet of smaller fishing vessels, each equipped with what looked like ordinary longlines. "Time to show them why you don't mess with people who wrestle with bluefin tuna for a living," she transmitted. Her fleet deployed their lines in a complex pattern, the high-tension cables containing specialized conductive materials that played havoc with alien sensors. On the Crimson Void's bridge, the situation was becoming desperate. "How are they doing this?" Crosthul demanded. "Their vessels shouldn't be capable of such coordination." "Sir," Zilt responded, his crystalline form vibrating with anxiety, "I'm detecting something extraordinary. These humans, they're not just using technology. They're using their knowledge of ocean currents, weather patterns, and marine life behaviors to predict and control our movement options. They're turning their entire planet's ecosystem into a weapon." He was right. Centuries of maritime experience had taught Earth's fishermen everything about their environment. They knew how to use currents to their advantage, how to predict weather patterns, how to coordinate massive fleet operations. Now they were using all that knowledge against an enemy that had fatally underestimated them. In the Pacific, Captain Kenji Yamamoto of the Ocean Warrior led a fleet of advanced longline vessels in deploying what appeared to be simple fishing gear. But as the equipment sank into the depths, it began creating a complex three-dimensional grid of sensor jamming fields. "Remember," he transmitted to the global fleet, "we're not just fishermen. We're the guardians of Earth's oceans." The aliens had assumed Earth's fishing fleets would be easy targets. Instead, they found themselves facing an opponent that had turned generations of maritime experience into an unprecedented defensive network. Every fishing boat, every piece of equipment, every crew member knew exactly what role to play in this carefully orchestrated counterattack. As the Crimson Void systems continued to fail under the relentless assault of Earth's combined fishing fleets, Crosthul was forced to acknowledge a harsh truth: they hadn't just picked the wrong target, they had awakened a sleeping giant. Earth's fishermen, with their intimate knowledge of the planet's oceans and their deceptively advanced technology, were proving to be the most formidable opponents his pirate fleet had ever encountered. Captain Crosthul stood on the bridge of the now powerless Crimson Void, watching as thousands of Earth's fishing vessels moved in perfect synchronization below. His mighty pirate ship, Terror of 12 Star Systems, had been reduced to a floating hulk by what he had dismissed as primitive fishing equipment. "Final status report," he commanded, his voice barely a whisper. "Sir," Vixna responded, her tentacles drooping, "all systems are compromised. The humans have us completely surrounded. Their nets have somehow created a dampening field that's disabled our quantum drives, weapons, and shields. We're trapped." On the waters below, Captain Maria Rodriguez coordinated the final phase of humanity's response. Fishing vessels from every nation had converged on their position, forming concentric circles around the alien ship. Each circle employed different specialized equipment, creating layers of containment that grew stronger with every passing moment. "All fleets, commence final net protocol," Maria broadcast. "Show them why Earth's fishermen have been the guardians of our oceans for thousands of years." The response was unprecedented in human history. Vietnamese trawlers deployed nets lined with quantum-disrupting fibers. Japanese longliners launched cables that could withstand the force of a breaching whale. Norwegian purse seiners activated experimental electromagnetic fields originally designed to protect endangered marine species. "Captain," Zilt reported from his station, crystalline form trembling, "the humans are using our own energy emissions against us. Every attempt to break free is making their containment stronger. It's like it's like they've turned the entire ocean into a trap. He wasn't far from the truth. Years of dealing with everything from massive whale migrations to international fishing disputes had taught Earth's maritime communities the value of cooperation and innovation. What appeared to be simple fishing equipment had been gradually upgraded with technology that even the aliens couldn't comprehend. From her position on the Northern Star, Maria opened a channel to the Crimson Void. "Captain Crosthul, this is your final warning. Your ship is contained, your boarding parties captured, and your technology neutralized. Surrender now, or we'll show you why nobody messes with Earth's fishing fleets." In the waters around them, thousands of vessels continued their coordinated movements. Chinese trawlers worked seamlessly alongside American seiners. Russian deep-sea vessels coordinated with Brazilian coastal boats. Generations of competing for the ocean's resources had taught Earth's fishermen how to work together when facing a common threat. "Sir," Vixna said quietly, "I think we should consider their offer. These humans, they're not what we thought they were." Crosthul's scales shifted through a rainbow of colors before settling on a deep blue of resignation. "To think," he mused, "we came here believing we would find easy prey. Instead, we found warriors who have spent centuries mastering their world's oceans. The greatest pirates in the galaxy, defeated by fishing boats." He reached for the communication controls. "This is Captain Crosthul of the Crimson Void. We surrender." The response was immediate. Fishing vessels from every nation began coordinating the complex process of securing the alien ship. Teams of fishermen, their equipment modified for space operations, prepared to board and secure the vessel that had dared to threaten their waters. As the sun set over the Atlantic, Captain Maria Rodriguez stood on her deck, watching the unprecedented operation unfold. A junior crew member approached her, eyes wide with amazement. "Captain," he asked, "how did we do it? How did Earth's fishing fleets defeat an advanced alien warship?" Maria smiled, her weathered face reflecting years of maritime experience. "Because they made the oldest mistake in the book, son. They looked at our nets and saw primitive tools. They looked at our boats and saw easy targets. They looked at our oceans and saw empty space to conquer." She gestured at the thousands of vessels working in perfect harmony around them. But what they should have seen was billions of hours of accumulated experience. Countless generations of innovation. A global community that has spent centuries learning to survive everything the seas could throw at us. They thought they were attacking Earth's fishermen; instead, they ran into humanity's first and last line of defense. The story of how Earth's fishing fleets defeated alien pirates would be told for generations to come. It became a testament to human ingenuity, cooperation, and the profound mistake of underestimating those who had made the world's oceans their home. In the years that followed, other alien visitors would learn to approach Earth with caution, knowing that its waters were protected by something far more powerful than advanced technology, the unshakable determination and collective wisdom of its fishing communities.